Hi everyone, we're going to continue right on with our different sections of our central nervous system. So our cerebrum is that largest portion of your brain, and it actually encompasses about 2/3 of all brain mass. So that's where we're going to see all those gyres and all of those different indentations. The wrinkliness of your brain is where you're going to see your cerebrum. So our cerebrum consists of two hemispheres divided by a fissure, and this fissure is actually really important. It's called the corpus callosum. So we're actually going to be able to see that when we do our live dissection. Our cerebral cortex is a layer referred as gray matter. So we talked just slightly about gray matter when we talked about the spinal cord, but our cerebral cortex is the outermost portion as well. So the outermost portion of our brain is gray matter, where in comparison to our spinal cord, the innermost portion was gray matter. And then this medullary body is going to be where that white matter is found, which is going to be within the brain. So we can see a couple different types of fibers that we're going to see are commissural fibers, conduct impulses between the hemispheres, so that's going to be part of our corpus callosum, so telling our right side and left side of our brain what's going on. We see projection fibers as well, and these conduct impulses in and out of our cerebral hemispheres. And then our last one is association fibers, and these are going to conduct impulses within. So we see between, in and out, and within. All these different fibers are going to be part of that medullary body, which is just a lot of communication within the brain and to the outside, other parts of your body. And then last one here is our basal ganglia. So our basal ganglia are masses of gray matter in each hemisphere, which are involved to control voluntary muscle movements. So we talked a lot about voluntary muscle movements before, but what's going to be controlling that is going to be our basal ganglia here. So let's take a look at what some of this looks like. So if we take a look, we see we have our right side of our brain and our left side of our brain. Remember, when we're looking at a page, we're looking at it as if we're looking at a person. And a lot of people say you can be right-brained and left-brained, and really, it's not so specific like that. But some things I do want to point out here is our corpus callosum that's connecting our two hemispheres here. We can also see that there's some special areas, so our speech center, we can see our auditory, we see another auditory cortex, analysis of touch, visual cortex, special visual analysis, special language analysis, and mathematical. So that's why sometimes people considered right and left brain people to be either more creative or more analytical. So let's take a look at some of these lobes of our cerebrum. So we have our frontal lobe, just like our frontal bone in our skull. We can see our frontal bone is located here in pink. And this is going to be in the motor area, so involved in movement, planning, and coordinating behavior. So those are the three big things that we're going to see that our frontal lobe consists of. And if we look, we kind of see this kind of line that comes down the center over here. So the motor cortex is going to be considered part of our frontal lobe. And then our parietal lobe, which we can see here in green, our sensory cortex is going to be part of our parietal lobe. So that's where those two kind of go. But our parietal lobe is mostly sensory processing, attention, and language. So anything coming in from our senses, and then really looking at the world around us and being able to communicate with that world. Our parietal lobe is going to be responsible for that. And then we see our temporal lobe is responsible for mostly auditory perception, so being able to understand sounds, speech, and then complex visual perceptions. And then finally, our occipital lobe is going to play a really big role in vision, because this is where we're going to see our eyes are going to connect to our brain through the occipital lobe. So this is mostly our visual center, and it plays a role in processing visual information, but a lot of that processing is going to happen in our temporal lobe, actually. So our occipital lobe is kind of more of rough pictures that we're going to see here. So we also have a few special regions of our brain, which you might have heard of before. So let's take a look at these regions. We can see Broca's area. So this is located in our frontal lobe right here in purple. And this is really important for the production of speech, so someone who's being able to get words out. And there's many different conditions that can happen if these areas are injured in some way. So for Broca's area, one of them you might have heard of before is called aphasia. And this is where you know what you want to say, but you physically can't produce the words. And this is going to be a big one for Broca's area, that kind of condition that you have. Our next area here is going to be our Wernicke's area, and this is for comprehension of language and production of meaningful speech. So again, has a lot to do with speech, and we can see that over here in kind of this lime green area. And again, these are very special areas. As you can see, they control really specific things rather than the lobes of our brain, which are kind of more of a general sense. And then our last area is going to be our limbic system, and this is actually a bunch of different things that are together that kind of expresses some different things here. So it's a group of structures that help regulate the expression of emotions. So we say the oblongata, our hippocampus, our septum, our basal ganglia, all those different things are going to be incorporated in the special region of our limbic system. So it's a bunch of different structures that contribute here. This is where we're going to end today. This is the end of our discussion for the central nervous system. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.